sure. All right, so I just want to get through this really quick. It's going to be probably a little shorter. I am all tuckered out from talking over the past 7 days, so I want to make sure I get the content out though. So on Monday we talked about taking your passion and monetizing it, basically passion and profits. And I put uh, the worksheet in the membership group, but I wanted to talk specifically about how, what's that process of doing it. Uh, a lot of business owners, but I would say agents for sure. They they do this innately, but there's not a lot of times there's not a plan around it. There's not an actual execution of how do you differentiate yourself? How do you bring that passion? Perfect example I would use is because we're talking about Weatherford. I'd use Courtney Bowens. Courtney, when she got into real estate, one of the things that I told her was that she needs to lean into the things that she enjoys doing because that's going to attract a certain amount of people. And obviously, if you look at her posts, a lot of her posts are around her son and the motocross that she does and things like that. And I know it's gotten her attention because people who like motocross, obviously, there's going to be a natural connection. And so it's just that's just one example. The other one that sticks out is there's a lady in Mansfield, and I think I've mentioned this on one of the calls before. But she has a dance studio, and when I found out she was struggling in the business, and when I found out that she had a dance studio and she was a dance instructor, she started leaning into that piece, and that was her passion. And she literally rebranded herself as the dancing realtor, and she started getting business from it because obviously, if people like dancing and they find out that she's an instructor, there's all these great conversations that happen. Oh, and by the way, she happens to also sell real estate, right? So uh, when you're doing this, it's a lot of it's a self-reflection of just, and honestly, there's agents out there that we get so busy with the business of real estate that we often lose track of, what are the things that we like to do outside of real estate? What is those things like? Obviously I'm a sports guy, so um, I like to watch, college football. The good thing about it is a lot of great conversations I've had because when people find out that I'm a coach or was a coach, they assume a lot of people assume that I'm like a football fanatic, and I'm like, I'm not really a football fanatic. I like college football, but I'm not a big, I like the Cowboys when they're winning. And if they're not,
Yeah.
I may or may not watch it, so cause I like being in the game. That was my passion when I was a coach. It wasn't watching the game. It was literally interacting in the game.
Yep.
But saying that it's brought up a lot of great conversations that had nothing to do with real estate, but I was able to connect with people that way. So on the worksheet, there's the very first one, the tactical number one is basically a worksheet that says column one is things that fire you up, teaching, community, family, things like that. A lot of realtors kind of lean into their family and their kids and grandkids and things like that. Nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what you should do if that's your passion. Then column two is how you can connect it with real estate. So let's say you're into you're into quilting. Well, how can you take quilting and then connect it into the real estate? Well, a perfect example would be having a quilting slash buyer seminar, new first time home buyer and quilting seminar. You're going to attract a whole different type of people. And, maybe it's not a overt buying conversation, but you will start to attract what I call your tribe. You'll start to attract your tribe just by figuring out how you can connect the two. And then the column three is how do you share that? How do you share that visually in a sense of how can you make that happen on social media? How can you make it happen in your postcards? Again, I'll talk about Courtney. Courtney, she has a motocross, it may be her kid, but like a motocross background. And one of the things that I see her do, um, I literally off the top of my head, because I use quilting, I'm not real sure why I did that. I don't know anybody who quilts, but that's how my brain works. It's weird. But I would sit there and talk about real estate as I was quilting, right? So you shoot the video as you're doing it. So you're not talking about quilting, but you're quilting. And so it's a visual representation of the things that you like to do. Same thing like for a guy, if you like woodworking, go out there and talk about real estate and the market and all that while you're doing the woodworking. And people, you're going to get
Yeah.
all sorts of great questions some about real estate, but more just what, oh, I didn't know you would woodwork. Oh my gosh, what are you making? All these kind of things. And that's what you're looking for, right? We often make it harder than we think, because we think we have to be like a professional salesman, or we have to have all these hooks and all this stuff. And some of that is true, but most of it is just we have to be relatable and authentic. So once you kind of fill that spreadsheet out a little bit, then it's what it says is post 3 times a week using that same energy. So if you just
Oh, okay.
yeah, if you just schedule, so the example that's in there is, what I love most about helping first time buyers is seeing the moment that they realize it's theirs. So they're using first time home buyers and kind of teaching as the passion. But whatever it is, just literally 3 times a week, you're gonna include that in some type of post. Obviously, video is to me the easiest as far as to be able to include it. And I'll say this till until it's no longer around, which will probably be never, but run it through, ChatGPT or Gemini and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. What are some ways that I can do it? You'll get a lot of great ideas of how, to create a video, or what content around it, things like that. You may or may not use them, but usually what it does for me anyway, it sparks that, oh, I don't like that, but I just thought about this, right? So a lot of times I use ChatGPT as kind of like a, when I do before AI, when I created logos, when I created mission statements and I've done that pretty much in all the schools that I've been at, and what we do is we go in a big room and we just start like writing words. And so you hear me say this a lot, but just start writing the words that make. Let's say when I was at the school and we did it for the first time, it was me, the teacher, the administrator. I mean, me, the principal, the administrator, and I think the assistant as principal. We went into a room for like 5 hours. We didn't have a mission statement. We didn't have any type of one sentence thing that made us stand out. And we just started writing. Well, what is this? What is the school? What do people say about the school? And we would write words. And then through that word process, we would be like, okay, so how can we tie this together that makes sense? And you'd 5 or 6 iterations, and eventually you'd get to a pretty succinct, good way of communicating what you're trying to communicate. Reason I say that is, I wouldn't do that today if I had to do it again. I would literally just run it through ChatGPT, because it pretty much takes that entire process and basically mirrors it back to you. So anybody, regardless of how creative you are, can create things like that, create the videos, create the monologue, create the script, by using that as basically your marketing team. And we just got to do the work. So, okay, so number 2 is it says relationship ROI. So what does that mean? Obviously, and Sherry, you were in my class, and you've been on these calls. We have got to start reaching out to every single person before the end of the year. So the very first thing is call 10 people, or past clients, or partners, like people that you've done business with, or your people that scream from the rooftop that you're a great realtor, whatever it is. Call them and actually start communicating to them that this is what you're going to do. Here's why that's important. I would guarantee you, if you call a past client, and again, if you haven't talked to them in 2 years, you may have to warm this conversation up. But if you call somebody, regularly, or you're in connection with them, just call them up and say, "Hey, I'm going to start putting out a lot of content around the thing that I'm really passionate about, which is whatever that is." I almost will guarantee you that you'll start having really great conversations, because one, they probably know you. They probably know you've spent a relationship, you spent 30 or 40 or 50 days with them. And they may have some really good ideas on, oh, that'd be great. What if you did this? What if you did that? And they actually get buy-in on it. So they become closer to your brand, because they're kind of helping you build it. So I would encourage everybody, if you're watching this on the record, to think about calling 10 people, just listing out 10 people over the next 7 days, and just trying to communicate what you're trying to do once you figure this out. And the script is, I put a sample script, which is, I was just thinking about how much I enjoy helping people like you find the right home. How's everything going? So again, this is about buying the home. So it's the buy side. Lastly, the one thing, and I said this yesterday on the business clinic, and then I've said it several times. passion always, always, always builds trust, the good or bad, because we've seen people of faith, we've seen cult leaders, we've seen presidents, we've seen congressmen that are passionate, and that passion brings people towards them, regardless of whether it's good or bad. So obviously, I'm talking about the good side, but we've seen examples in our life, and if you start thinking about it, people don't follow, or people don't really trust people at the level that they do with people when you're talking about someone who doesn't bring passion, and they're just kind of a monotone, they're just kind of giving facts and things like that. It's the reason why you've got these. I've never met an evangelist. I've never met we call it a televangelist, that the ones that raise a lot of money. I've never seen any of them ask without passion. Now they've learned the tricks of the trade, in the sense of they've learned how to manipulate people this way. But on a positive note, to attract people to you, to attract people to want to have conversation, there's got to be something in you that is appealing from a passion standpoint. So that's why I say it's just so much easier um, if we talk about the things that we're truly passionate about, because we don't have to make it up. Here's a perfect example from yesterday. Yesterday at the happy hour that we did after the event, there was a mom, not a mom, there was yeah, I guess it was mom, but she wasn't a realtor. She was invited by somebody else but she attended the event. And she's trying to get into public speaking and things like that, or she actually is in it, but she wanted to talk to me about how I got in it, and if I have any advice or anything like that. But then I found out, I said, well, where do you live? She's actually in Weatherford. And I said,
Are you talking about Sarah?
probably, maybe. Her
She
kids go to
she because
Weatherford
I saw you
Christian.
talking to her most of the time. Sarah was from here, and the other lady that came from here was Holly. She was a lender, but she wasn't at the happy
Okay, so
hour.
yeah, her kids go to Weatherford Christian. I know that. So, because that's what she mentioned, and I was like, oh, we played Weatherford Christian when I was a football coach, and she's like, oh, really? What coach? And da 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 da. And then we talked about, and literally 25 minutes about six-man football and football and football, had nothing to do with anything that at the event, but I'm very passionate about it, right? And
Right.
I could see her face, and she's like, "Oh, yeah," and da da da. And I didn't, 20 minutes before that, I'd never met her, and all of a sudden, we have this huge connection.
Yeah.
And so I just say that to say it, if you lean into those things, it makes it so much easier for you to build relationships, because people want that. They want people that have that passion behind them. And again, it doesn't have to be overt, it doesn't have to be big, it just needs to be authentic. And it needs I what I tell any business owners, I say we all do it, but most of us just do it by chance. Like we just happen to, be in that conversation instead of doing it intentionally for the business. And when you start thinking about it from a business standpoint, and you're like, how can I attract clients without having to go sell them or things like that? This is the easiest way, because when you lean into it, you're gonna get some people who don't care. You're gonna get some people, maybe depending on the passion, that maybe are not on that board, on that train, but that's okay. Eventually, you're going to find the people that do, and that's your tribe, right? That's the people that you start forming your tribe with. So
So it's basically people that have same like common interest, or you don't have to be passionate about it, but you have something in common with. Like I'm
yeah,
sitting here
so
thinking about I right now, I guess just at this point in my life, I really don't feel like I have anything that I'm passionate about besides like I like to be outside. I like to go on walks, in nature and do stuff like that. And I've created all this video on doing walks in nature, but yet have I put together, something to post about it,
right,
um, or working out. I love to work out, but in the past year, I've had a lot of injuries and stuff that have kept me from doing it. So right now, my passion is kind of low for a lot of things. That's the reason why I've been coaching for so many years, and I actually had to hire a physical fitness coach just
right.
because of that. But just trying to get through these things at these different seasons of life.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and and that makes perfect sense. I think that I fall back to when we're talking about, because I like to coach from a holistic standpoint. when we're talking about running a business, we can't ultimately sustain our business, at least enjoyably, if we're not addressing what I call the four pillars of our world, which is health, energy, relationship, and opportunity. The opportunity is the business, but we need to be our best version of ourselves as humanly possible when we're talking with people. So if that's true, then we do have to make time for those other three categories. Our health, like you said, working out, walking. Energy, what brings you energy? That's the thing that is kind of is what really is around the passion. And then, the relationships, obviously I'm not going to get into that, but making sure that we're our heads in the right spot. So I would say, because I completely understand that there are times in our life where our energy is really high and our passions are high, and sometimes there's not. And then that means that we need to do some work. I've got something that came in my head when you were talking about it. I would, if I were you, and if let's just say for sake of argument, really the only thing you're passionate about is getting out in nature and walking. Okay. So let's just say that's the only thing. I'm not saying it is, but well, 3 times a week, go out and walk and do one of those times, just turn on the video all 3 of those times and do like a 5-minute market of the moment walk every Wednesday. And you literally just turn it on, shoot the video. You're out in nature. People are going to see it. Maybe if you see a bird, or something, you can say something but you're just talking about, the interest rates for the week or whatever it is, but you do it consistently every Wednesday outside in nature. And here's the funny thing. What you're going to see is, because I'm thinking as this is how my brain works, but I start thinking as I'm talking, wouldn't it be funny that one time you do it while it's raining? Like, hey, I got to do my Wednesday walk. So here we go. It's raining outside. You got
Yeah.
your thing on. And that kind of stuff, especially if people start watching it and they start consistently seeing it, it'll be great content. And then, maybe one of the other ones is just a philosophical Friday or something like that. And you just want to kind of get out and talk about your week or talk about the, what you're thinking about or what you're, if you go to church, what you're addressing at church, things like that. That to me is great content. More importantly, it's very authentic and people will start to see that passion. I've got he's an ex-client of mine in Virginia, and he's passionate about working out. Young guy, very passionate about working out. He would do what I just said similarly while he was in the gym. Like he would literally take his phone, put it up by the thing, and he'd be sitting there, on the bench doing while he's talking about real estate. And it was just this weird dichotomy that it was interesting, even though the content probably wasn't if he just sat there and read the content, it wouldn't be interesting at all, right? It was just the fact that I can't believe he's working out and talking about real estate, so and he got a lot of attention from it, probably because he was a good looking guy. That had a lot to do with it too,
Yeah.
but just the fact that it was like, oh man, how much weight are you lifting, things like that. So I just encourage anybody who's watching this, especially you, Sherry, if you're on it, since you're on it, to just think about for 2026, because we're super close to 2026 now. Think about starting, maybe in November, we're going to rebrand this thing in November. To me, November is always a great time. November, December, especially November, because you got a little bit of time before the holidays really kick. To really think about how you want your 2026 to look, and then if you start in November, like November 1, you start this process. You get all the ahas out of the way, you get the plan, you figure out what it looks like, and then you start in November. It gives you 2 months to mess up, to get it right before 2026 hit. By the time March happens and the market starts to trend back up, and like Darren said yesterday, if the interest rates go to mid fives in the first of the next year, it's going to change our landscape, especially in DFW. It's going to change our landscape because I just truly believe there are a lot of people sitting on the fence right now because they just can't afford the monthly payment, or they can't afford, just where we are. But our housing market, as a rule, has started cooling off. At least it's not accelerating like it was. And if those interest rates drop into the mid fives, and that means that FHA and VAs are going to be low fives, I think that's just going to be a world changer for at least the next couple of years. So I just want every agent that hears me to go, man, don't miss the opportunity, but we got to be prepared. Luck is luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? And there's a lot of opportunity that's going to be happening, but the ones who are going to get the benefit from it are the ones who are prepared for it when it comes. So I would encourage you to think about, just do that real quick exercise. Obviously, you did a little bit of it today, just talking through it, but just figure out, and maybe it's something you're not passionate about now, but it used to be, and you want to start doing it again. You know, like I love martial arts. I've got a black belt in Taekwondo. I've got a brown belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. I've wanted to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years, since it's come on the scene, because I just love the interaction and the thinking through it on how you're going to get out of something and things like that. I can talk about it for days, but it's not really a passion of mine now because I haven't done it yet. I haven't reignited that fire. But if I decided to do it, dang straight, you'd see me having videos, you know, right after a rolling session or right after, because I just know that that's going to be that's going to bring a certain amount of attention to our videos and to our content. To me, with real estate, and I'll end it with this, to me, with real estate, the secret sauce, when someone says, well, what's the secret to this person's success or the secret to this person's success? I think it's twofold. One, it's systems. Like if we just do this once a week for 4 months or for a month, and then we don't do it and then we get back in it, that's not a system. Doing it consistently over time is a system, whether it's lead generation, whether it's social media posts or whatever. We've got to be systemized in how we do it. That's number one. But number two is just being your authentic self in everything that you do. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, because we think we need to show up a certain way on video. And usually the best videos, like probably gonna post one here today about the past 7 days and the events that have happened, because I'm overjoyed, I'm honored and blessed, but also wore out. So, and you're probably going to see that in the video, because I know that people will be able to relate to that. And it's just being relatable, authentic and just letting it all hang out. I will tell you that some of the best content videos I've seen in real estate are ones where, and it just happens to be female, but ones where females, and I'm not saying you need to do this, my wife would never do it, show up like when they're putting their makeup on or they're curling their hair. So they're not their normal self. They're their self in the evening time after they've taken everything off. But there's just an authenticity to it when they're able to show up that way and just be, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to help people. It just makes you don't have to try to figure out how to show up on film. You just show up. And some of my videos are if you go far enough back, you'll see a lot of raw videos where I'm just like, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now in the real estate world, but here's what I do know. And just being authentic with it. So,
So when you said to, just go and shoot video and do something, like the example you gave me was walking in nature, and you
yep,
said do a 5-minute video.
yep.
Is that something, where would you post something that long to get people to watch it?
I would put it on Facebook. I'd put it on Instagram too. I'd put it on either one of them. I'm going to
Just
use it.
on the reels?
Yeah, I would do the reels. I would also post it in the story, maybe post because when you, like, let's say on Instagram, I don't really do, like I said, like yesterday, I don't do a lot on Facebook anymore because they're tied together. So whatever I do on Instagram, it automatically goes over into Facebook. So I'm not 100% sure how the interaction in Facebook happens. It may be a little bit different than Instagram, but on Instagram, you shoot a reel, you publish it, it automatically goes to your story. But then also there's a little button that says share to it automatically goes to your post. But then there's a little button right after you share it, right after you post it, that says share to your story. And literally when you hit share to your story, you can create, another text over the top of it saying, hey, make sure you watch this. Oh, this is my 5-minute da 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 da. The story goes to all the people that follow you. Okay. It doesn't mean they watch it, because it's those little circles up on the top of Instagram. But the more they watch your stuff, and I don't know if you know this about Instagram, but the more they watch your stuff, the higher you show up on those circles. So like perfect example is, and this, I was doing kind of a pseudo Instagram class on Tuesday with our title people. And I said, the great thing is, like, my daughter, she posts a lot on Instagram, and she is the first one the first circle that shows up in my Instagram, on my Instagram profile every single a week. Why is that? Because I literally she's got my grandkids. So anytime she posts anything, I'm clicking on it to see. So because I engage with it so much, it becomes it's the first one that we see. So I would do that, and then I would share it to stories, because now you get feedback of how many people see it. You can look on the insights to see, who saw your stories, who's actually clicking on it. And that's also a good lead generation opportunity, that if you've got people that are watching your stories that are friends, and they watch it like 2 or 3 times, and you just note it, all of a sudden that's a great conversation to either DM them or pick up the phone just out of the blue and just be like, hey, we hadn't talked in a while. Just want to see how things are going. But that they've watched your stories 2 or 3 times. So it's not going to feel weird to them, because in their mind, they've seen you, they've talked to, they've interacted with you, even though they technically haven't. So it's kind of a good, what they call ninja hack in social media, because you get to actually see what they're doing. And then when you call them, you don't necessarily mention it. You're just reaching out to say, hey, but on their side, it already feels familiar because they've watched your content. Does that make sense? So it's kind of this
Yeah.
good little, it's a good utilization of the platform, especially when you start looking at the insights. You can't necessarily see it on reels, because you can't necessarily see unless they comment or like. You can't really see who's watching your reels, but you can see who's watching your stories. And it's only going to be people that are they don't push out the story. So it's just people that have subscribed to your channel. And it's a great little ninja hack if you see, Tom Jones watching, and then you see Tom Jones watching, and he happens to be one of your clients or past clients or potential clients. What a great time to pick up the phone and just say, hey, Tom, just thinking about you. Just want to see how things are going. See if you happen. And on their side, it'll be like, oh, Sherry, what's going on? Hey, because it'll feel like they just talk to you because they just sit there and watch your content. So that's a little,
Gotcha.
thing that I've done in the past. I don't do it enough. But as I'm talking, I'm writing it down going, oh yeah, that's right. I can do all that.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Okay.
So it's 9:30. Have a great weekend.
All right.
It's supposed to be pretty this weekend. I think we'll have 70s and tomorrow, at least for one day. And again, if you need anything, you know where to find me.
All right. I appreciate
All right.
it.
See you. Bye.
Bye.